Hey, what's up guys? Quinn here. Today we have a really exciting video that I've been wanting to do for over a year now. We are finally upgrading the Classroom 75-gallon Predator Cichlid tank. You might have seen in a previous video that we toured the Custom Aquariums factory in Wisconsin, and we also picked up a custom 110-gallon aquarium. So my Jack Dempsey and my Green Terror are at the point that the 75-gallon was just not big enough for them and they needed a much bigger tank. So that is why the 110-gallon is going to be perfect for them. I'm going to walk you through the complete setup of this tank, but make sure you stay around to the end to see the final product. But before we get into that, you know the drill. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. We really appreciate your support, and let's dive right in. Alright, so for those of you that are new to the channel, this 75-gallon in my classroom has been my show tank for the past 2 years. The tank inhabitants are a Jack Dempsey, Green Terror, and a Convict. I actually just removed my beautiful Salvini from the tank due to aggression. The tank has been more peaceful and the fish have seemed healthier because of it. As I was just about to start the transfer to the new tank, I came in one morning and the Convict had laid eggs. Tension levels were very high as the Convict tried to defend half of the tank. You can see that she was pretty scraped up from fighting off the bigger fish, but overall there were no major injuries. After a few days, the eggs were gone and the normal tank hierarchy returned and things were peaceful again. Alright, so now it's time to start moving the tanks. We first had to move the 29-gallon to the other side of the classroom to make room for where the 75 will be moved. I had to move the 75-gallon so the new tank can sit on the back table. This is the only table in my classroom that a canister can fit through a gap behind the table in between the wall. Once I had the 29 and 75 tanks moved, it was time to get the 110-gallon in place.
High five!
The tank is a 5 foot by 2 foot by 2 foot and is the biggest possible tank that can fit on my lab table. The Custom Aquarium ultra clear glass is an inch thick and the tank is way heavier than my other ones. After a brief struggle, Noah and I got it set into place. Now it's time to aquascape.
Yeah, baby! Yeah.
I went with one large driftwood piece to sit on one side of the tank, along with 2 medium-sized pieces to go in the middle and the right side. After a few tries adjusting them to what I liked, I began to prepare the substrate. I went with 6 20-pound bags of Carib Sea Sunset Gold. This is probably the most tiring process of setting up a new tank. I'm a big believer in washing your sand before you put it into the tank. When you do wash your sand, you see just how dirty it is out of the bag, and the beginning water clarity of your tank will benefit from it. I use my science classroom sinks, but a hose is probably the easiest method. Pouring the sand was kind of a hassle out of the buckets, but eventually I got it all in and evened out. Next, I added some rocks from a local fish store as well as some fake plants that were in my 75-gallon to complete the aquascape. For my filtration on this tank, I went with the FX6 canister filter. This is a high-powered filter and should be plenty of filtration for a 110-gallon tank. I was sure to take the seeded biomedia out of my Pinplax canister that was running on the 75-gallon. This will jumpstart my cycle on my tank along with Fritz Turbo Start. For my chemical filtration, I always go with Chemi Pure Blue. This stuff does wonders in your tank, and if you're not using it, you're missing out.
1/2 teaspoon for fast, effective relief.
I was sure to wash off all the internal equipment before setting it all up. I'm super excited to use the Cichlid Extreme SDC Powerhead on this tank. This Powerhead can pump 270 to 2,250 gallons per hour, depending on your desired water flow. My favorite part about this pump is that it's Wi-Fi controllable and has a temperature reading that I can access on my phone. This is huge for my setting, as I obviously do not live in my classroom, as some of my students might think. Therefore, during weekends, holidays, or school breaks, I can still have eyes on my tank. This would have given me much more peace of mind last year during the COVID shutdown when I was not able to check on my tanks for 2+ weeks. For the heaters on this tank, I went all out and got two 200-watt cobalt heaters. It's finally time to fill her up. Joker the Green Terror was the first to make the jump into the new tank. Followed by Jack, and then the Convict. After a day of acclimation, they started to get used to the new tank and began swimming freely. They definitely seem to love the new increased swimming space.
Look at all the sport space. We do aerobics in here.
So many activities.
Joker's nuchal hump has increased in size, and it's great to see Jack still colored up. I was a little concerned with Jack's color with the light substrate, but overall, it hasn't changed much. We decided to work with Custom Aquariums because they were able to build a tank that fits perfectly on this desk, and their tank quality is by far the best out there. They supplied this tank so we could share the build on the channel, and we are also going to be working with them more on future projects, one of them coming up very soon. Couldn't be happier with how this tank turned out, and there will definitely be more updates coming soon. Alright guys, so I really hope you enjoyed the setup and the finished product of this tank. I definitely have future plans to add fish to this tank, and actually, I think some of those future plans are quarantining in my 75 gallon right now. So stay tuned for that. Speaking of which, I will have an empty 75 gallon tank that will need to be restocked. So if you have any suggestions for what fish I should put in there, definitely leave those in the comment section and we'll take those into account. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next week.